Crane Stationery Co. in North Adams has spent the past 5 weeks closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But this weekend, its 229 employees got good news. An email telling them parent company Mohawk Fine Papers of Cohoes, New York, planned to start up production again. The happy news didn't last long, as another email followed 3 hours later, informing workers to stay at home. Thomas O'Connor Jr., Mohawk's CEO and chairman, balked at conditions Mayor Thomas Bernard wanted for the plant to remain open safely, and questions the mayor had about the essential nature of the work at the plant. In the wake of this, the concerns remain about the future of Crane in North Adams. I spoke with Mayor Bernard to find out more.
I heard late in the afternoon, early in the evening of last Wednesday, so that would have been April 29th. I heard from an employee who had received the email from Crane's HR folks.
And just so people at home do know, we did reach out to Mohawk Paper, which is the parent company of Crane, and invited them to take part in an interview with us. We haven't heard back yet. We're hopeful that they'll accept our offer and have a chat with us. But in the meantime, Mayor, wanted to get some more information from you. So 229 employees at this Crane Paper facility in North Adams. So does that make it the biggest employer in the city currently?
It's one of the biggest, but between the city, the schools, the healthcare, the Berkshire Health Systems. They're not the top employer, but they're a major employer, and in addition to size, it's a company with a deep, rich history in North Adams and a history and a brand that's been built by the Crane employees.
And Monday night, you released a statement, this is yesterday, saying that Crane leadership, you're calling on them to clarify the future of the organization there in the city of North Adams. Have you heard a response to that call?
I have not yet heard a response. It's Tuesday afternoon at this point. And I think, in addition to that statement, the reason I asked that question is beginning with the communication to the employees on the 29th, on last Wednesday. There's been a real lack of clarity from the company about exactly what's happening, and it's creating confusion and it's creating uncertainty, not just for the employees, but for everyone in the city. And we're a city, but we're also a relatively small and an extremely close-knit community. So Crane's workforce, Crane's employees are, neighbors, they're friends, for people, they're relatives. I've heard from people who they're, a husband and wife who both work for the company. So there's a real deep sense of concern. The messaging and I think the key phrase that created the first confusion was the phrase "wind down operations," which I and others took to mean Crane was shutting down completely in June.
But as I understand it, the company then sent out subsequent communications that said, no, it's not closing completely, that about 15% of the workforce would be retained. Is that correct?
Right. They followed that up the next day with the clarifying statement about the employees who would be retained. But again, the fact that there was a need to put that clarification out contributes to the confusion. The next piece of the puzzle was a letter that I received, which said that 15% was only going to be retained through September 30th. And the company sent me two lists of positions, not individuals, but position titles. The ones that would be let go in June, and then the ones that would be retained until September, at which point they also would be let go, and that would be final. I did, when I received that letter, when that letter arrived in my office on Friday, speak to the CEO of Mohawk Paper, Mr. O'Connor, and he did offer an assurance that letter was sent to me in error, and that the information in it was incorrect. But again, we're seeing a pattern of inconsistent messages and lack of clarity. So when the question came to me about the communication from Crane, I felt it was important to identify this pattern and to ask Crane to clarify publicly what Mr. O'Connor said to me in conversation.
But then over the weekend, Mr. O'Connor's employees were notified that they could go back to work. But then there was a communication that said, no, do not come back to work. And that was due in part to some requirements that you had released, including that you wanted health and building inspectors inside the current highway facility there to check on some safety precautions. They wanted the company to outline precautions for protecting employees from COVID-19, as well as documenting the work and making sure that it qualified as, quote, essential. Now, those requirements were outlined, as I understand it, after the Department of Labor and Standards had said, you qualify as an essential business, go ahead, open on up, get back to work. So why did you get involved?
For two reasons. First of all, because the health and safety of the community is my responsibility as mayor, and I do have the ability to place additional guidance on the information, the advice of the Division of Labor Standards, and it's, I think, helpful to note that it was a fairly narrowly constructed message as far as the order that was provided, and what it indicated was that Crane was essential to the degree that they were supporting other essential business. And so my request was to ask Crane to demonstrate that. In other communities, we've seen where the guidance from the state has been that if you're manufacturing PPE, for example, that should be the only part of your business, if that's not your main business, that you should be carrying out.
But then on the other side of that coin, you have businesses like big box stores where essential's a little fuzzy there. You might be going in to get some essential things, but there's also flowers and candy and other things. And the state hasn't, stopped those big box stores from being open.
Right. So there is an issue there, but it's also not a comparison. There's not a universal standard that can be applied business to business. And again, just to go back, the recommendation from the person from the state who rendered the opinion was that they recommended that they cease non-essential operation. And with that recommendation, and then the authority that I have under statute, I felt it was appropriate to, in the interest of public health, to place this additional limitation on the company and ask them to demonstrate that they are only servicing the essential parts of their business.
As I said, we asked Mr. O'Connor or someone from the Crane leadership team to speak with us, but in lieu of that, Mr. O'Connor told the Berkshire Eagle, quote, "This is meant to hang us up, to keep us closed. We feel like we're being run out of town. It's clearly retaliation." Are you retaliating or trying to run this company out of business?
My goal and my responsibility is the protection of this community, the protection of public health and safety. And so I am approaching this from a public health, public safety, and harm reduction lens. The suggestion that the two issues, one, the announcement that Crane made and that they have had to walk back and clarify in several instances is one issue, and then the essential operation is a separate issue. And I think when we conflate those things, it's unfair to all parties. So I would like to see clarity on the essential business and operation, and then continue to work with Crane, as I have done since the announcement broke on the 29th. As soon as we in North Adams heard about this, our state delegation, our economic and workforce development folks, our connections in the state, I reached out and we started to mobilize and to say, we are ready to support Crane's success and its continued operation in North Adams and its workforce. And so everything that I am doing is from the lens of keeping Crane in operation in North Adams and then doing it safely.